The rain was cold that night in Raleigh. But my mother's voice was colder. I was 18. She pressed a wrinkled $50 bill into my hand. "Your sister deserves the future," she said, her voice flat. "Not you." My father, Mark, just stood there in the doorway, his face a mask. Then the door clicked shut, locking me out of the only life I'd ever known. 6 years later, the rain tapped against the floor to ceiling glass of my CEO office in Austin. My intercom buzzed. It was Nina, my assistant. "She's here. Ms. Sullivan." I turned from the window. "Send her in." Have you ever felt like the invisible one in your own family? Let me know your story down in the comments. The woman who walked in was my sister, Chloe. But that's not where the story begins. To understand that moment, you have to understand the house we grew up in. Our house in Raleigh always smelled of lemon polish, and my father's dusty blueprints. My mother, Susan, was obsessed with maintaining the appearance of perfection. My father, Mark, ran a small, struggling construction company and believed the only two things that mattered in life were concrete and profit margins. It was a silent, rigid hierarchy. And in that system, Chloe was the son. She was 2 years older, a marketing major, with a bright, easy smile that charmed everyone. Every compliment in that house, every bit of warmth, curved toward her like light. I was different. I was the quiet one, the analyst, the one who lived in spreadsheets and saw the cracks in our family's foundation. When Chloe turned 18, she found a red convertible in the driveway with a massive bow. My mother clasped her hands, beaming, calling it an investment in her future social life. When I turned 18, just a few months before they threw me out, my parents handed me a small envelope at the dinner table. Inside was a $50 gift card to a bookstore. "You love reading." "Right," Lena, Mom said, not even looking up from balancing the company ledger. I just stared at the card. "Thank you," I whispered. The words felt like ash in my mouth. I didn't have the words for it then, but I learned them later. I had to understand. Our family was running on a classic, toxic psychological script, the golden child and the scapegoat dynamic. Chloe was the golden child. Her job was to shine, to be the beautiful, effortless reflection of all my parents' ambitions. She was their proof that they were successful. She could do no wrong. I was the scapegoat. My job was to carry everything else, all the disappointment, all the financial stress, all the quiet rage that simmered under the surface of our perfect home. I was the built-in reason for everything that went wrong. Her role was to be seen, mine was to be invisible, until they needed someone to blame. I spent years desperately trying to earn my place. I got perfect grades. I kept my head down. I made myself useful. My dad would hand me a shoebox full of receipts from his construction business, and I'd spend my weekends building spreadsheets, showing him where his cash was leaking, how he could optimize material orders, how to track his bids. He'd just grunt, take the spreadsheets without a word. And then, at dinner, he'd praise Chloe for designing a flyer for her sorority bake sale. I just kept thinking, one more thing. If I just achieve one more thing, if I just prove my worth one more time, they'll have to see me. Then, the acceptance letter came, and I was naive enough to believe that would finally be the thing to change the script. That night, the night it all ended, it actually started with hope. I was standing in the kitchen, holding 2 envelopes that I thought would finally finally make them see me. The first one was thick. The official seal of the University of Texas at Austin. I'd gotten in a partial scholarship, but I was in. My heart was pounding. The second envelope was from a statewide student startup competition, an algorithm I had written on my own. A small piece of code to analyze supply chain data. Had won the grand prize. $5,000. It was almost the exact amount I was missing for my first year's tuition. I could pay for it myself. I wouldn't have to ask them for anything. I would be an asset, not a burden. I remember running into the dining room, waving the letters, my voice shaking with excitement. I got in. I got into UT Austin. And I won. I won $5,000. I can pay for it all myself. The room went silent. That heavy, familiar silence that always followed when I was happy. My father, Mark, grunted from behind his newspaper. UT, that's a lot of money. My mother, Susan, set her fork down with a small, sharp click. Her eyes weren't happy. They were calculating. $5,000. She said, as if tasting the words, that's convenient. Your sister Chloe needs a new laptop for her summer marketing internship. And that apartment deposit in the city isn't cheap. I just stared at her. The letters in my hand suddenly felt heavy. What no? Mom, this is my tuition. This is for my school. She sighed. That long, tired sigh that always meant I was being selfish. Lena, be realistic. Chloe is going into marketing. She needs to look the part. She needs these things for her real career. You should use that money to help your sister. That's what family does. Help her, I repeated. The words felt foreign. I earned this. I won this. This is mine. That's when my father lowered his paper. His voice was sharp. A real career. You tinkering with numbers on a computer, that's a game. Lena, it's not a real job. It's not a game. My voice was rising. And I hated it. It's data analysis. It's a real field. It's a hobby. He snapped. Chloe's future is the priority. She's going to be someone. If you want to go play at that school in Texas, you can figure it out yourself. You're 18. Time to be independent. I looked at him, stunned. Independent. That's what I said. He nodded toward my mother. Susan. My mother stood up. She walked to her purse, took out her wallet, and pulled out a single, wrinkled $50 bill. She didn't hand it to me. She pressed it into my palm, her fingers cold and quick, as if she was touching something dirty. Be independent, she said. I stood there, frozen. I looked at the $50. I looked at the $5,000 prize letter in my other hand, and then I looked at Chloe. She was sitting at the table, perfectly still, watching it all unfold. She didn't say a word. She didn't flinch. She just picked up her fork and took a small, careful bite of her salad. That was the moment, the snap. It wasn't the insults. It wasn't the $50. It was her silence, her absolute, comfortable, complicit silence. I folded the acceptance letter and the prize check. I put them in my pocket. I looked at the $50 in my other hand. Fine, I said. I went upstairs, packed a single backpack, and walked out the front door. I left the $50 bill on the kitchen counter. The 6 years that followed weren't a montage of success. They were a slow, brutal reconstruction. Brick by painful brick. That first night, I ended up at a bus stop in Raleigh. The rain hadn't stopped. I was shaking. Not just from the cold, but from a fever that was starting to bloom behind my eyes. I had my $5,000 prize check folded in my pocket, but it was useless. I had no bank account to deposit it in, no address to put on the form. Just before midnight, a truck driver named Sam found me. He was in his 50s, with kind eyes. He took one look at me, probably saw his own daughter, and came back from the convenience store with a hot soup and a fleece blanket. "You look like you need this more than I do," he said gruffly. Before he drove off, he tucked another $50 bill into my jacket pocket. It was the same amount my mother had used to dismiss me, but this one felt different. This one felt like a lifeline. He helped me get to a shelter. The woman who ran it, Maria, had a strict, no-nonsense face. She pointed to a cot, one bed, one locker. "You get 30 days to find a job. Rebuild. Don't waste my time." I didn't. I got a job at a local coffee roastery run by a woman named Jenna. It was chaos. The inventory was a mess. The delivery schedules were handwritten on sticky notes. Beans were constantly being overordered. It drove my analytical brain crazy. I started on a $5 notebook. I tracked everything. The flow of customers, the ounces of espresso used per hour, the delivery routes. After 2 weeks, I handed Jenna a new schedule. She looked at me, then at the notebook. This is brilliant. You did this while steaming milk. It's just data." I told her, "It's not just data." She said, her eyes sharp, "It's a system. You have a gift." Lena, Jenna was the one who got me my next job. Her brother, Leo, ran a small tech incubator. They needed a temporary admin, filing, answering phones, data entry. It was mind-numbing, but it gave me access to something. I craved a computer. I did my work during the day, but at night, I stayed. I used their servers to refine the algorithm I'd won that prize with. I built new models. I ran simulations. I taught myself to code in 3 new languages. Leo found me one night at 2 a.m., surrounded by glowing monitors, running a complex market projection. I thought I was fired. He just stood there for a full minute. Then he pointed to a small, empty office in the corner. "You're wasting your time answering my phones," he said. "Take that desk. Show me what that algorithm can really do. I'll give you 6 months." I didn't take 6 months. I took 6 years. I turned that algorithm into Clarity Analytics, a business intelligence firm that specialized in finding the rot in a company's systems. We didn't just consult, we performed surgery. We found the inefficiencies, the waste, the golden child departments that were draining resources, and we exposed them with cold, hard data. My company became the name that CEOs in Austin called when they knew something was wrong but couldn't prove it. And on the wall of my office, I had 2 things framed: a wrinkled $50 bill and a plastic, laminated badge that read Lena Sullivan, temporary admin. The click of the door opening was sharp. Clue Sullivan walked in. She was 26 now, thinner than I remembered. And the easy, bright smile she used to wear was gone. It had been replaced by a tight, practiced, professional one. She looked tired. She was wearing an expensive-looking suit that was just a little bit too big for her. She looked right at me and saw nothing. Not her sister. Not the girl she watched get thrown out into the rain. She just saw the CEO, the person with the power. I was just an obstacle between her and a paycheck. Nina, my assistant, did the formal introduction. Ms. Sullivan. This is Lena Sullivan, our CEO. Ms. Sullivan. This is Chloe Sullivan, a candidate for the senior analyst position. The name Sullivan hung in the air for a second. I saw a flicker of confusion in Chloe's eyes. Just a brief moment of, "Is that weird?" But she dismissed it. Sullivan is a common name. She was nervous. She just smiled politely. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Ms. Sullivan," she said, holding out her hand. I didn't move to shake it. I just gestured to the chair opposite my desk. "Please, sit." The interview was cold. I kept it purely technical. I asked her about data modeling, market analysis, and projecting KPIs. Her answers were adequate. They were textbook, full of corporate buzzwords that sounded impressive but meant very little. She had learned how to sound like she knew things. I glanced at her resume on my screen. "I see you've been with your last company, a major retail brand, for 4 years? Why the sudden need for a change?" Chloe's professional mask cracked. She sighed. And for a second, the real, frustrated, Chloe came out. It wasn't by choice. The entire division was liquidated. It was a complete disaster. I leaned forward, my hands flat on my desk. My voice was quiet. A disaster, how? It was this consulting firm, she said, her voice dripping with resentment. This data firm from Austin, Clarity Analytics. I think they were called. I held my breath. I didn't move a muscle. Our leadership hired them to do an internal audit, she continued. And their report was, it was brutal. It was ruthless. They found every single inefficiency. They pointed out how the marketing department, my department, was over budget and underperforming. They said we were operating on legacy assumptions instead of actionable data. They tore us apart. I kept my face perfectly still. Inside, I was smiling. I remembered that report. I wrote it. I remembered finding the Golden Child department, the one that got the convertible-sized budget but delivered gift card results. It had felt familiar. They used that report to gut the entire company, Chloe said, her voice shaking with anger. Wiped out the whole marketing team. 6 years of work. Gone. All because of some heartless number-crunching report from Clarity Analytics. Chloe stopped talking, realizing she'd gone too far. Anyway, I just want a more stable environment, she said. I let the silence stretch. Let her sit in it. Then, quietly, interesting. Tell me about a time you handled conflict, a time you enforced fairness. She blinked. Fairness means treating everyone equally. The words were hollow. I said nothing. The silence grew heavy, uncomfortable hers to carry. Then her gaze shifted. She noticed the 2 black frames behind me, a laminated badge, temporary admin, and a faded $50 bill. Recognition hit her like a blow. Lena, she whispered. The name trembled. Oh my God. I didn't know. I thought you. Thought I disappeared. My voice was calm, sharp as glass. She broke down, crying. Lena, I'm sorry. That night I didn't say anything. You were quiet. I said, you always were. I stood, looking down at her. The old power had flipped. We're here to discuss your qualifications. Ms. Sullivan, not family. She sobbed harder. Are you going to hire me? I looked at her resume. Your data skills are mediocre. Your understanding of fairness is weak. Your department was inefficient, but your failure is valuable. I picked up my phone. Nina, prepare an offer letter. Position junior analyst. Probation 2 months. Chloe's tears stopped mid-breath. Junior, I was a senior manager. Your title was senior. I said, your data says otherwise. You'll earn your place. Understand? She nodded. Broken. Yes. Thank you. Don't thank me. I said, thank the data. You start Monday. After she left, Nina appeared. Hesitant. Lena. She's your sister. I believe in data. I said, and second chances, but not third ones. That night, I stayed late. The city lights of Austin glowing beyond the glass. My phone buzzed Susan. My mother? It rang and rang. I let it. Then I pressed silence. For the first time, the quiet wasn't empty. It was peace. Freedom. I realized wasn't about forcing them to apologize. It was about cutting away what poisoned you, even if it shared your blood. That weekend, I drove back to Raleigh. The streets looked smaller, the air heavy with memories. At the rusted bus stop where Sam found me 6 years ago, I placed the small frame with the $50 bill on the bench. This, I whispered, was where they ended me. I stared at it, the price of my silence, my survival. Then I smiled, and this is where I began. I turned back toward my car, toward the highway, toward Austin, toward the life I built myself. They say silence is empty, but sometimes silence is power. Sometimes silence is freedom. Have you ever had to build a new life from the ruins of your past? Share your story. You're not alone.